and jumped over a fence to offer help. He told the inquest, "I see Keith fall on the floor and I quickly run over to him. I believe he fell on his side and I went down on one knee and tried to turn him over." He went on, "I didn't know his name then. I was saying, 'Come on, son, stay with us.'"
It moved on to Hong Kong yesterday and has been heading northwest through the Chinese mainland, leaving a trail of devastation.
Mr. Elwood said he didn't want to give up trying, telling a doctor at the scene that "You're going to have to order me to stop." The medic replied, "Sir, you've done your best, but you do need to stop." Emotional at times, fighting back the tears while reliving those events, he said, "I could see there were two bodies lying on the ground and activity around both of them. The nearest one was clearly a police officer, with other officers attempting to give him support."
This growth, central forecast of 1.5% this year and next, which puts us towards the bottom of the growth league at advanced economies. You can see the US at the top there, Japan at the bottom, us towards the bottom of the pack. The IMF believes, Mary, that all forms of Brexit will leave.
16 Chicago had its most violent year for 20 years. 771 people were killed, most had been shot. Since then, the numbers are falling, down 16% in 2017, and this year so far down a further 19%. Ria Chatterjee has reported on countless murders here in the capital. She travelled to America with her cameraman Joe Manda. Her first report is on the lessons from the city of Chicago.
422. At some time in our lives, 1 in 3 of us will experience the symptoms of depression or anxiety. But despite being so common, scientists know very little about the underlying cause of these closely linked disorders.
The US Supreme Court has 9 members and rules on the most significant political and cultural issues in American life. Currently, the court is evenly split between 4 liberal justices and 4 more conservative judges. The critical centrist and swing vote has long belonged to Anthony Kennedy, and he's the justice who is retiring. That's why the fight over his replacement, Judge Kavanaugh, has become such an epic, high-stakes confrontation.
And it is worth underlining that fact if you are suffering. You certainly are not alone. Now, after the storms and the deluge, the clear-up and counting the cost. Let's first to Typhoon Mangkhut in the Pacific, which has left a trail of death and devastation from the Philippines to mainland China. The storm hit the northern Philippines on Saturday with winds of up to 155 miles an hour. At least 65 people were killed. Mangkhut then made its way across the South China Sea to Hong Kong, you may have seen, where on Sunday the skyscrapers shook and fallen trees and floods caused really extensive damage. Casinos in the neighbouring enclave of Macau closed their doors, losing an estimated $186 million. Next, 2.5 million people were evacuated out of Mangkhut's path in China's Guangdong and Guangxi provinces. In one town in the Philippines, dozens of miners are missing after a massive landslide buried a church where they were sheltering.
Before the crash, he'd been allowed to work more than 75 hours a week. But because that includes time not driving, the hours weren't illegal. A local bus driver is allowed to drive up to 70 hours a week. For heavy goods vehicles, the limit is 56 hours.
But today the Migration Advisory Committee says after Brexit, the government should have the same rules for EU migrants as it currently has for non-EU workers. It suggests scrapping the cap on high-skilled migrants like engineers from all parts of the world, currently set at 20,700 people a year, and loosening the rules to allow more medium-skilled workers like plumbers to come in, but restricting low-skilled migrants, except perhaps seasonal farm workers.
Such intervention in the city of Chicago stop the spread of violence here.
If you know the streets, you know what to look out for. Your eyes are everywhere. I feel constantly.
We had a situation last night at the nightclub.
I went to visit a man who trains them.
Yeah, be careful out here.
The guidance under consideration would say that women whose weight is measured as normal should gain a maximum of 2.5 stone or 16 kilograms. The overweight should put on no more than 1 stone 11 pounds, and obese women no more than 1 stone 6. The NHS already recommends no increase in calorie intake in the first 3 months of pregnancy, and only 200 extra calories a day in the remaining 6 months.
He was asked by the lawyer for PC Palmer's widow, Dominic Adamson, based on what we've heard, protection for unarmed officers at the gate were more often than not simply left unprotected. Yes, sir, PC Ashby replied. The lawyer for PC Palmer's mother and siblings asked, "You were never told about the particular vulnerability of unarmed officers at that already vulnerable location." "I was never told to give it a priority. No," PC Ashby said.
Pro women rugby players can now expect a salary of up to £28,000. Women's football's also fully pro, but their top players earn around £35,000. In cricket, though the Women's League is semi-pro, players like England captain Heather Knight can take home up to £50,000. But all are the envy of tennis, which has long been professional. Take Johanna Konta. This year, she's already made £720,000 in prize money.
Well, it's hard work. Like, I've got to be in Preston this morning. I'm meant to be there for 10 o'clock, but well, before 10 o'clock. And this one this morning's been late again.
Really bad. It literally takes sometimes about an hour for a journey that's normally half an hour.
Even if you're trying to get into St Pancras, it's just really difficult. And if one train gets cancelled, then you're waiting a good 25 minutes.
Britain's rail travellers still angry at the service on offer, and now an official inquiry has agreed the failings of rail companies go to the very top. Today's report found the industry prioritised engineering and planning ahead of serving its passengers. Neither Govia, Thameslink nor Northern gave accurate information to customers when the true level of disruption became evident, and Network Rail is criticised for not understanding the risks of the changes and for not taking sufficient action when things started to go wrong.
Council President Donald Tusk said the UK had been surprisingly tough and uncompromising in Salzburg, but that, out of respect for the efforts of Prime Minister May, we will treat the Chequers plan as a step in the right direction. I remain convinced that a compromise good for all is still possible.
That's because next week we're expecting the announcement of a fight between Britain's Tyson Fury and the American Deontay Wilder, who holds the only world title Joshua doesn't. Whoever wins that is likely to fight tomorrow night's winner. And the winner of that would unify all the world titles. And that's not happened since Lennox Lewis 18 years ago.
Known as remote mothering, gang members can control their drug runners from inside prison, making sure phone locations are available at all times. From inside prison, criminals can use apps like Find My iPhone. It locates exactly where their recruited young gang members are. A FaceTime call means they can check on their surroundings or simply request a Snapchat photo to prove they still have the drugs they're meant to be delivering.